and welcome to block 36 and block 92. We're going to start with block 36. It's got a lot of components. So I'm going to do mine in a series of pieced and paper pieced segments. The first piece I'm going to do is this middle section, which I've already completed. Basically, I've cut some strips of the fabrics that I'm using. I sew them, flip them, and then I grade the seams. There's so many small pieces in there that I don't want too much bulk. So I'm going to go down to less than a 1/4 inch, maybe about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then I'm left with this nice piece that fits in that way. The next pieces I've got to make are these ones here in the corner. So they are pink, 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 and we're going to make those paper piece. So I've cut the segments out. There's no seam allowance on this one, so you must be aware when you're piecing it that you have your patterns and your fabric extend past that 1/4 inch. So we've done one, we'll do another one, and our fabric goes like this, like that, yes. So I'll lay it against the white, because the white, the size that I've given you in the measurement, should give you very close to what you need. I again make sure that I extend past the 1/4 inch on both, and I'll just stitch that up. I'll put those pieces together and I'll end up with something like this. And then I will take my cutting board and then I will add the 1/4 inch or trim up the 1/4 inch. So I'm putting my line on the line if I can see it, if I've left it on my copy. You can see here there's a little black line there and then it disappears and then it comes back there. So that's just what I use. Most times I get enough of it that I can figure out where that ruler needs to go. And again, I'm going to cut. And again, I'm going to cut. And now we have another component ready. And that will get sewn onto there. Okay. So that gives us our center section. Now we've got the corners and then these segments. So this segment I will do with I cut them out, but I'm just going to piece them. So I will piece them with the colors that are there, but I have to make my half square triangles first. So again, using your pattern and the directions of size, we're going to do some half square triangles, and this is a method that I like to use. I mark them out at the size that or cut a strip the size that I need, and then I mark the lines at the other size. So I've given you a square to do it. I think it's 1.5 inches. Then I mark the diagonals, and I'll sew on those diagonals 1/4 inch from each one on both sides. Then I come back and I cut those up. And what I'm left with is a piece like this, and that will give me 2 half square triangles. So I'll cut on the drawn line. I will press. And then I'll trim. So this will give you an oversized half square triangle. And I trim with my diagonal on the line of the sewn seam. I think these are supposed to be 1 1/8. So I'll trim one corner, right, so I get my piece right, my seam right in the center, and then I'll flip it over and I will do the measurement of 1 1/8, and then I'll trim that up. And that will give me my corner pieces here. Then I've cut up my other colors in there, and then I'll sew those together and make myself that component. So I've left a bottom, top, left and right, so I know which goes where, and the orientation goes the way that my pattern is. Of course, you can change your orientation at any time, and you can change your colors at any time. So here's the same sort of thing, just 2 blocks, and I've sewn on one side of this. So again, I will sew on a 1/4 inch away from that line as well, and then I can cut those up and I can use those as well. Then we have the corner segments. So the corner segments are green and yellow and blue. So what I do is I sew the yellow or the green and the blue together, press it open, and then I line up the pattern, this fabric with the pattern. So I want to make sure that my line here is on my seam, and then I can give it a pin, and I'll pin it this way so as not to interfere with my sewing. And I've made sure, I don't know if you can see, I'll try to put something behind that you can see. If you see the shadow there, I've made sure that the green and the blue are up into the yellow portion 1/4 inch. And then I bring it over, I sew that together and press it open, and I'll get this, and you want your design to go right into the corner, your seam to go right in the corner there. And then I've trimmed it up with my 1/4 inch all the way around. So those that can now be all put together when I finished all of them, and they can be constructed and put into that block, which again now just becomes a lesson in piecing. Block 92 is similar in so much as it has the half square triangles, lots of them. So you could take this, and I've already cut out 3 sides of it, and then I will cut out the bottom with my fabric scissors, even though I shouldn't have. So now I have a paper piece segment to do. I would get 2 like this, 1 from each side, and then I would get 2 shorter ones, and then you could paper piece that way. The fabric sizes that I give you are generous enough, I believe, to cover those sections. Again, when I start out, I always line up my fabrics for my that I'm going to use. So for the center, I will just cut that out, and I will paper piece it. So again, I'm going to cut right on those lines. I'm going to piece this, and then I'll trim it with a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around. Now with Mark's printouts for the paper piece, you won't have to do that because she'll have already given you the 1/4 inch. Then I will piece these guys just like a 9 patch with my center section, and I will take my center section and square it up before I add it, just to make sure that it's the right size. And then I've got my corner pieces, which I've got laid out here. And then I've done my half square triangles this way again, where I've done I've given myself the size I need, and then a diagonal line and a diagonal line. This way I can sew through the whole line without stopping. So I'm going to put my 1/4 inch foot on the line, and I'm going to sew until my needle hits that this line here, the horizontal or vertical, whichever one you want. And then I'm going to have my needle drop, and then I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to do the same thing. My 1/4 inch, and this time I'm coming right off, and then this time I pivot the fabric again, and I'm going to put the 1/4 inch foot on the line, and again sew till I hit that middle line, if that makes sense, and then again pivot and sew right off again, and if I had another one I would keep going. That way I can sew the whole strip and then cut them, and then go back and sew the whole strip backwards, and then I've got my my sewing on each side of the line. Then I can cut them up on those lines there. Now this one I haven't done yet, so I won't cut it apart. Let's just quickly do that one on the 1/4 inch line. But that method kind of saves you from having to cut all the time and do your chain piecing. So again, I cut that. I will press this open, and then I will trim it to whatever size I need there. So the blue is up there and the green's there, so I will put it there. I will trim it to the size, and then I can sew together, just piece those. But again, you can paper piece that whole line if you'd like. And that is block 92 and block 36. Lots of half square triangles, lots of pieces, lots of time to play with your colors and your fabric choices, and enjoy those.